Hello, everybody. It is Renee, and I am here from Reformation Body Solutions in Los Gatos, California. And I'm very lucky today to have with me Dr. Vikki Peterson from Root Cause Medical in Saratoga, California. So we're neighboring cities. Dr. Vikki has a integrative team. They are a destination clinic, which makes them very unique. So no matter where you're at in the country, if some of what we talk about today resonates with you, you can come and see Dr. Vikki. You can make a phone appointment. It's a really unique experience. And I've been to the clinic. It's so beautiful and functional and bright and airy. So welcome, Dr. Vikki. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome. So, Dr. Vikki, tell us a little bit about your background, share with our viewers just kind of a few of the things that you do, and then we're going to just segue into talking about leaky gut and IBS.
Yeah. So we are a very unique medical clinic, as you said, because we are a group of doctors working together. So we're not just doctors sharing space, but we're an integrated team. So there's medical, internal medicine, medical director, and then certified functional medicine, and we can talk about what that means. And then we have a registered dietitian as part of our team because we do a lot with diet and lifestyle changes. And then we have a physical medicine side of the team, which is chiropractic and physical therapy. So when someone comes in, they don't necessarily need all of those services. It depends on what's happening with them, but the doctors are all working together and they know what each other is doing. And we put people on programs to actually correct the underlying root cause, hence the name of the clinic, of whatever it is that's going on with them. So we specialize in getting people off medication because when you really correct the underlying root cause, then they no longer need their medication anymore. So this is reversing heart disease and diabetes and autoimmune disease and high blood pressure and lots of different things, many different things. But it's having the tools. It's all really about having the mindset and understanding that the human body actually knows how to heal itself very, very well. It's just that when it's not, it'll give you a symptom to say, okay, please help me. That's what symptom means. And then it's figuring out, well, what's underlying that symptom rather than just taking the migraine or the high blood pressure and giving a drug to just manage the symptom. So of course, sometimes you have to do that. You have to manage a symptom so something really dangerous doesn't happen. But even if somebody is on a medication, I mean, if you came in with really high blood pressure and you didn't know you had it, sure, we'd put you on a medication, but we just don't stop there. So we say, okay, great. Now the med took you out of the danger zone, but now let's get to the reason why. And when we get to that reason, then we're able to remove the medication because you literally don't need it anymore. You see? So that is the full circle. That's what functional medicine does. It restores function to the body by getting to the root cause. The only hard part about what we do is that it does require diet and lifestyle change. And so we're very upfront right from the get-go that that's part of it. And we're not just handing you a pill. So.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I have a new client that and it made me think of you because you told me about your story of where you just had migraines all the time. You had your big migraines and then you had your everyday headache.
Exactly.
And she was telling me the exact same story. And of course, she's been diagnosed with leaky gut and celiac and IBS and it's really tough. And we were talking about how she had worked with a functional medicine doctor, and she said, when I did what he told me to do, it went away. But it's really hard to keep up that lifestyle. And I was thinking, gosh, when you're feeling so bad all the time, it seems like it would be simple to keep up that. But I don't know, maybe not.
Humans are funny. We're very funny creatures in that I can't tell you how many patients, everything's reversed and everything's doing awesome. And then they come back 2 years later saying, oh, I just did myself in, and because you work hard and then you almost kind of have amnesia. It's like, well, did I really ever have that? Maybe it just will never come back. And then, if friends or family are not supportive and it's like, oh, you don't need to be so careful. You feel great now, right? So there tend to be the voices from the outside and then sort of, being hopeful that maybe I don't have to work so hard at it. And we have to work hard at staying healthy. And I mean, for some people it's effortless, but not that many, it really is not.
Yeah, it's a job, and I call it like, we do weight loss over at our clinic, but, people always want to know, do I have to do this forever? And I'm always like, yeah, it's kind of like a part-time job,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true, but it's like, do you have to exercise forever? Do you have to get enough water forever? Yeah, you do, and you enjoy having a machine that doesn't work and you feel terrible and you're not enjoying life. So it really is a decision, but I just like to make sure people know it is a decision versus the people who are just told, well, this is the way you are, you're getting older, it's in your family. That's what I was told because I was exactly like my mom and she had the migraines and the passing out from low blood sugar. So I was told, there is no choice. That's just the way you are, and then there's the getting older comment, and then there's the you're menopausal comment, and, all these things that we hear. And I don't believe any of it is true. When the parts are designed to last for 120 years, then, even hitting 60 and being told you're getting older, well, we're all getting older, yes, but that doesn't mean we have to feel terrible.
Yeah, exactly. If you are watching this live, please say #live and tell us where you are from. And if you're watching in the replay, do the same, except with #replay. If you would do us a favor, though, right now, hit your share button. All of us have someone that really, really needs this information. And so today, we're going to be talking about solutions to IBS and leaky gut. And Dr. Vikki, can you let's just start this by explaining actually what IBS and leaky gut are.
Yeah, that's great. So IBS is a pretty common complaint because 15+% of the population has it. And you can be given the diagnosis. A lot of times doctors call it, at least in functional medicine, a bit of a grab bag diagnosis, meaning, well, what does it actually say? Your bowel is irritated. So if your bowel is irritated, that can manifest in a number of different ways. So you can have a predominantly diarrhea-based IBS, where the bowels are moving. They tend to be watery, very loose, many times a day. I've had patients who are housebound because of IBS. If you've ever had food poisoning or just a really, really upset tummy and you never knew when you next needed to find a bathroom, you can start to get the feeling of what these poor people go through, which is, I'm afraid to leave the house because I really need to know where that next bathroom is. So it can be very disrupting, needless to say, to one's life. And then other people can have more of a constipation based, which less scary about where the next bathroom is, but no less miserable. And then there are the people that just go back and forth. They just go one extreme, then the other extreme, and then maybe a little bit right in the middle, but then back again. So they kind of never know what's happening with their gut. And they don't feel well, they're uncomfortable, they're bloated, and they don't know what to eat, they don't know what's causing it. And so that in a nutshell is IBS. And there are certain criteria for diagnosis. It's called the Roan criteria, but it can be a bit of a grab bag diagnosis. It is a legitimate condition. I'm not saying it isn't. It's just that what we're all about is the why. The name is fine, but why? And unfortunately, people, when they're diagnosed with IBS, are told there is no cure. I disagree, because we've quote unquote cured it a lot over the years. And I just feel it's all about, why is this bowel being so irritated? Now, leaky gut is a completely different phenomena, although you can definitely have a leaky gut when you have IBS, but you cannot have IBS and have a leaky gut. So a little anatomy. So when you think about eating, I mean, we know we're eating for fuel, but how does that fuel really get out? Like if you just ate and then you pooped, like you wouldn't you wouldn't be fueling any of the cells in your body. So the food needs to be broken down, and then it leaves via these openings basically in your small intestine. So the small intestine is 23 feet long. It's got the surface area of a tennis court. It's massive. When you look down at your little tummy and you go, where am I housing a tennis court? It can be a little, it's an interesting phenomena, but you have 10 trillion cells in the body and they all have to be fed. So we need this sort of massive surface area in order for that to occur. And the other piece of information is the knowledge that the human immune system, 70 to 80% of it is housed in your gut. And it is immune cells that actually guard the little tiny openings of your small intestine that, and this is, by the way, why that's called the second brain, is that what happens is the immune system can guard. Sorry, I'm hearing something other than myself. Is that?
Sorry.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't.
I was sharing it out and it accidentally went up. Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So anyway, the immune system kind of guards the gates of all these little tiny openings in the tennis court, so it's, once again, pretty massive. And so a normally functioning gut basically opens the doors and lets good food that's been properly digested out into your bloodstream. And that's critical because that's the only way you're going to feed your cells and nourish your cells. Then what can happen due to foods that you're reacting poorly to, drugs that you've taken, inflammation occurring for any reason, including IBS, that's the leaky gut. So the immune system has gotten compromised to a fairly large degree because it's out battling something else, right? It's dealing with a food reaction, it's dealing with an infection, a drug has compromised it, etc. So there's a few different things that can create this compromised status of the immune system. So now what happens is the guards leave the gate, and as the expression goes, they leave the gates wide open, hence the term leaky gut. So now you have things going through those openings of your small intestine that shouldn't be. So bad things like parasites and bacteria can get out into your bloodstream when that wouldn't happen if things were functioning normally because the immune system wouldn't let it. There really is this intelligence to the gut that's amazing, hence the terminology, your second brain. But it'll see a bad guy coming and the gates will close. And it'll say, no, you cannot enter my hallowed halls. We're just going to poop you out the other end, right? Versus with this leaky status, there's no control and things are passing through and creating a lot of inflammation, irritation. It's known to be an initiation of autoimmune disease. So there's a lot that goes wrong with a leaky gut.
Yeah, I definitely can attest to that. About 4 years ago, just took a couple series of antibiotics and just kept wondering why I was getting all these infections.
Yeah.
I am UTI infections, and pretty soon I was sicker and sicker, and I thought it was my hormones, and I was exhausted, and just really all these different things. And what it really ended up to be is through the use of all these antibiotics over the year, or it was like a 1 year period of time. I literally got, my system was leaching. I ate a lot of fish. It was leaching a lot of mercury, and boom, I was so sick. And it took me, like I've told you before, about 9 months to actually feel human again. I literally was bound to the bed. It was awful. So
Yeah.
things to know, people, is, if you have these kinds of symptoms, you're exhausted, you feel like fatigued all the time. You just like wonder why you just can't feel better. Going to see Dr. Vikki, seeing if you're in an area where, somebody in your family knows a functional medicine doctor or an integrative medical doctor. Those are doctors that really specialize in working with helping you heal from the inside out and the whole body.
Right.
So let's talk about if you've been diagnosed with IBS and you've been told there's just no cure, sorry, this is how you're going to have to live forever.
Yeah, I know. It's awful. And so untrue, in my opinion, if you're willing to change your diet. And so that is a big caveat. If you're not willing to look at dietary change, then you probably are stuck with those symptoms, which are pretty miserable. But if you're open to changing diet, then there's a couple of key things that need to occur. So one is you do want to look at food sensitivities. And we're not saying allergies, because a food allergy is a different aspect of the immune system, creates that response. And a food allergy is pretty dramatic. You eat a food and within an hour or two, you're running to the bathroom, you've broken out in hives, you have trouble breathing. The symptoms are pretty intense and fast. And so thereby figuring out what you ate that caused it is not that difficult because it happens pretty quickly. Food sensitivities, on the other hand, are so different, which is why they're difficult to discern. And that is that it can be anywhere from several hours up to 8 days. And if you think about what you ate 8 days ago, you probably won't come up with anything because it's too long a period of time. Yeah. But to appreciate the fact that what you ate 8 days ago could be affecting you today is something that not a lot of people realize. So I wish there was a perfect blood test to diagnose food sensitivities, but there isn't. So the gold standard is still the elimination and provocation, which is, we call it a modified elimination diet. And there is a very good blood test for gluten, not just celiac, but celiac and gluten sensitivity. So there is a great blood test for that, which is wonderful because it's the most common food sensitivity, and it's very associated with leaky gut and highly associated with IBS. So that one's good, but otherwise it really is that a clinician helping you through what's called a modified elimination diet, where you're off foods for close to 3 weeks. There's still plenty to eat within that. We're not starving you. And then you scientifically reintroduce foods one at a time, watching for reactions, and only one every 3 days. And so it's a whole process, but somebody who's holding your hand through it makes it very doable, and it's extremely accurate. The blood test, as I mentioned, the delayed reaction blood test, if you have a leaky gut, so since now that we've defined that so nicely, with a leaky gut, you'll get a lot of false positives on this test. And if you've been maybe trying to eat really well, but you have a leaky gut and you pay good money for these blood tests, what you're currently eating will show as positive. And you go, why was I doing the kale and the broccoli if I'm quote unquote allergic to it? So yeah, it can be very frustrating. So those blood tests are just not up to where we need them to be yet, hence the modified elimination diet.
Okay, so let's just kind of hypothetically, we're talking about making nutrition changes and other changes. What are some of the changes that people that kind of cross all of the borders, and that people have to really kind of expect to make in order to start feeling better?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's so important to appreciate that the way the way your gut got to the place where it was and the way mine did, it's different. So we can talk about the generalities of food sensitivities, which we just mentioned. We can talk about the generalities of infections. And what's interesting about infections in the gut, which can create IBS and a leaky gut, is that these are organisms that if the immune system was functioning the way it should, it would just be handling these organisms as they came into the gut. But because the immune system is compromised, as you mentioned, that compromised status can come from a lot of antibiotics that have occurred, even starting in childhood, unfortunately. And whether you put on antibiotics as a kid for strep and ear infections or maybe acne as you got older, any of these will compromise the gut and set you up for the weakened immune system. And now these inhospitable organisms that you can't get away from them. I mean, they're microscopic, but they're gonna come in. It's just that the immune system is supposed to handle them. But if the immune system's compromised, they can get a foothold, and then they can further create inflammation with the IBS type symptoms and further create a leaky gut. So it's a catch-22, which makes it sound like, oh, there's no way off this merry-go-round, but there absolutely is. And that's where the functional testing comes in. So I do want to speak in the generalities so we get some good education going. But by the same token, I do want to state that there's nothing more refined to, in other words, to really get the job done, you need to do these tests to say who's home in this gut, who shouldn't be there. And there's no guesswork in that. I've had patients say, well, just give me an antibiotic that'll kill everything. And it's like, that's part of what got you in.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what started this whole thing, But, so doing the test and finding out and then boosting the immune system. And sometimes it's a little bit layers of the onion. You get the big bad guy and then you get stronger and there's something else, and it doesn't go on forever, but there can be a couple of layers that you have to go through in rebuilding this gut. Yeah. So that's what it takes.
So we have a question here. Dee Marie is, she and I do a cooking show every Wednesday, and she is a coach up in Alberta, Canada at Red Cliff Pharmasave. She says, do you recommend doing elimination of foods prior to delving into blood tests? We have so many clients needing a starting point on the journey.
Right. So when it comes to really the only good blood test that I know of is the one that evaluates celiac and gluten sensitivity. And that one, you can be off gluten for up to a couple of weeks, not too much more, in order to get an accurate test. But beyond that, I don't recommend those other blood tests because they're just not accurate. So I do recommend the elimination diet. But if you really suspicious of
what happens with the elimination diet, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. What do you do? So you eliminate the most common food reactions. So that's gluten and dairy and citrus and beef and, a number of different foods. So what's left is a lot of vegetables. The only fruits that are eliminated are citrus and strawberries, though those are potentially highly allergic or sensitive. Peanuts are the only nut that's eliminated. Eggs and beef are eliminated. No other meats are. Fish, there's really all the fish are allowed. Tuna, tends to be a bit high in your favorite mercury. So we avoid those kind of things and try to go with the healthier fish. But, there's plenty to eat. It's just the most common sensitivities are eliminated for about 3 weeks. And then we gradiently reintroduce a food every 3 days, but being very acutely aware of what's happening as that's occurring. So what's nice about the elimination diet is say you reintroduce strawberries and you say, wow, I almost just felt a little brain foggy. Is that possible? And you go, okay, well, what else was going on? And it's like, well, it wasn't a terrible week. It was a sort of stressful week. I just don't know. You go, okay, fine. So let's just take it back out again for another week and then get you back up to, feeling really good, and then hit it again, And so if you know how to do it, you'll get that same response. So then, the person reintroduces it and goes, no, it seems fine. You go, great. Now on to the next food. So you do have to be quite aware of what's happening and not just say, well, it was a tough day and I didn't sleep as well. And maybe that's what, So in order to get an accurate response, you have to be very alert to what's occurring. Yeah.
So journaling and really keeping track of the so some of the symptoms and honestly I was really surprised because when some of my symptoms not only were exhaustion, but my brain got really weird and I couldn't remember things and here I am just about probably around 52 years old when it happened.
Yeah.
And, I was dropping things, like things would fall out of my fingers. And I was like, what the heck, and stuff like that.
Mercury will definitely do that. But then it's tough. You see, it's tough when you're a woman and you're in that perimenopause or menopausal time, and that's compounding, what's going on potentially. And you have to tease out what's what,
Yeah, I thought it was just my hormones were off. So I was like, I'm calling my doctor.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's easy to blame menopause for everything. You have to see, what's doing what. And sometimes it's a combination of things and has to be
right. Right. And when we're younger, we just blame PMS. I got a migraine, I got this, I got that, so yes, you don't have to have bad PMS either. So let's talk a minute. And before we get going, please take a moment. If you are live, give us a hashtag live. Tell us where you're from. And if you're in the replay, do the same. Let's talk about acid reflux and heartburn. And this is a big subject that I have just really this year learned about, or not this year, but in the last 12 months, really learned to understand that a lot of people have these reactions, heartburn, acid reflux. So of course they are popping antacids, and in many instances it's not actually high acid, but actually low stomach acid from what I've been learning. But tell us a little bit about what goes on there, why we get these symptoms.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. And it bothers, antacids are, I think, still the number one over-the-counter medication. So a lot of people are suffering from this. So the heartburn, basically, your heart is on your left side and so is your stomach, and they're not that far apart. And the esophagus is the tube that connects your mouth to your stomach. So if the stomach squeezes, goes into spasm and squirts its juices up your esophagus, you can feel that kind of burning sensation in your chest. It's near your heart, so that's hence heartburn. And then the reflux is that this is a more dramatic sort of situation where, almost when you've thrown up in the past and you taste that, ucky stuff in your esophagus, or it goes all the way up to your mouth as well. And so it's actually reflexing what's in the stomach back up into your mouth. And so that's the more dramatic, it's going up higher. They can be caused by a number of different things. As you mentioned, we're so quick to say, bad stomach, you're producing too much acid. And it's the stomach's job to produce acid, because if you think about how poorly we all chew and we have these big chunks of food going down our esophagus, the stomach is this bag of acid that churns it around and breaks it down into the small pieces, which then, when it's done, it secretes it into the small intestine so that proper digestion can occur. And that's really point number one. When you're taking these antacids, you're diminishing your stomach's ability to break down your food. So you're setting up malabsorption and maldigestion all the rest of the way down your intestines, which is quite dangerous. So instead of compromising the stomach's ability to make acid when that's its job, better to say, why is the stomach refluxing the acid up the esophagus? Because that's where the symptoms are coming from, and the burning and the irritation. And that's legitimate. Again, if you've ever vomited, you know, oh, that it feels very irritated. Yes, because that acid is not supposed to be in your esophagus. It's just supposed to be in your stomach. So it's a classic moment of conventional medicine saying, oh, there's too much acid, and not appreciating basic physiology, which is that the stomach is designed to do this. Instead of saying, well, gee, why is it, as I said, spasming and squirting those juices up the esophagus? That's what you need to get to the bottom of. So similar to what we've discussed with the IBS, to say that having acid reflux or heartburn can't be related to food is just maddening to me. It's like, well, what's going in your stomach? You know what I mean? I'm so irate, It's like, oh no, you can eat whatever, just take the antacid. And it's like, oh, I kind of want to scream.
Yeah.
Because, a fourth grader would understand that what goes in your stomach is food. And if the stomach is spasming, gee, maybe it didn't like what you ate, right? So it sounds ridiculous, but it's very true. So number one is ruling out, is there something you're eating that is not suiting, basically? And then also, it is looking for infection. There's a stomach infection called H. pylori. The H is short for Helicobacter pylori. And it's a very common bacteria, but it can actually, it's interesting because it's counterintuitive. It destroys your ability to make the acid while giving you the acid reflux. So as you mentioned earlier, when you said you could have too little stomach acid giving you that feeling of too much, this is akin to that, in that this is a bacteria that's destroying your ability slowly over time to make acid while giving you these acidic types of symptoms, because it'll also create stomach ulcers. So again, and I really want to mention this because I guarantee somebody's listening to this who says, oh, I've been treated for that. I took the antibiotics and now I'm fine. Thinking that if you're treated once, now it confers lifetime, of like getting chicken pox and you'll never get it again. It's not lifetime immunity. This is a bacteria. The H. pylori is very, very present. And so unless you boost your immune system to defend you against it, you can absolutely get it again, which is something that conventional medicine doesn't seem to appreciate. So it really is about getting to the root. Now, the antacids, the PPIs, omeprazole, all of these many, many drugs, whether it's Tums or the prescribed is certainly harsher to the system, but these are drugs that over time will cause osteoporosis, brittle bones, and we women are much more susceptible to that than men, but we're seeing it in men as well. And so you'll know people who have been on this 10, 15 years, and all of a sudden their doctor goes, oh, wait, how long has it been? You need to stop that and just stop them cold turkey because of the dangerous side effects, instead of, we wouldn't have needed to be on it in the first place if we just got to the root cause. So getting people off these medications without them then suffering symptoms is not hard at all if they're willing to change their diet. It's always my favorite caveat, but it just happens to be true.
So what are the main things that are there certain foods that people are more sensitive to that cause acid reflux?
I'm really glad you asked that, because one of the key things is that when you're inflamed, the esophagus is inflamed, the stomach's inflamed. Of course, if you then are eating spicy food, your body goes, no, no, no. I like to use this analogy. If you had let's say you had a paper cut on your hand, you didn't know you had it. It was quite small, couldn't even feel it. But then you went to squeeze a lemon. Oh, now we know we have it, right? That lemon found that little cut. Did the lemon cause the cut, or did it find the cut, right? The cut there, the lemon found it. So similarly, people will say, oh, I can't eat spicy food and all of that. And what's so interesting is that that is never the cause. It's just aggravating because it's already there and already inflamed and irritated, just like the lemon. But what's so interesting is the foods that you're told to eat, like, oh, coat your stomach with yogurt or milk or have some bread. Those are the two most common food sensitivities that cause the problem. So those comfort foods that are, soothing and coating, those are your enemies, not the spicy chili. It's a little counterintuitive, but it's true. Yeah.
Oh, great information. If you guys are out there and you're live, give us a hashtag live. Tell us where you're from. And please, everybody hit the share button. And if you're really enjoying this presentation and interview with Dr. Vikki, if you're really getting something from this, hit the heart button. Give us a spray of hearts out there.
There's a little love.
That's right. Okay, Dr. Vikki. So let's just say someone, just has lots of digestive issues and they're just not getting any help other than, a doctor giving them, here, take this and take this for this and this for this and this for this, take this for your migraine, this for your bloating, this for your IBS, this for, sometimes I get a laundry list on our health profile of all of these things. Tell us, what do you do?
Right. What's so key is you have to find a clinician. You have to find somebody who gets this concept of getting to the root cause. And that's where your functional medicine type of doctor will get you. I can't tell you how often patients come in and say, I don't feel like I'm crazy talking to you. Meaning, sometimes their doctor looks at them and says, where'd you get that idea? That's nuts. Just take the pill and stop searching on the internet, and they're chastised for trying to help themselves, when I love it when patients try to help themselves. But it's appreciating it's not normal to bloat. It's not normal to be gassy. It's not normal to not move your bowels every day. And if don't mind me getting graphic for just a moment, but the brown banana is what we're going for when we're pooping, not the little rocks and not the liquid and not any other description, just the nice smooth brown banana is what we're going for. And these are things that aren't talked about very often. So people will tell me, oh no, my bowels are fine. And then I ask the next question and I find out they move their bowels every 2 to 3 days, or they just have little pellets. And this is not normal. And that means everything, really, because think about it. If you're not turning your food into fuel, how is any part of your body going to work? It's just not. It's like having a Lamborghini and never putting gas in it and saying, why doesn't this, $80,000, $100,000 car move, right? It's because you're not fueling it. And, it sounds simplistic, but it is really. And so, A, don't put up with it, and B, relentlessly find somebody who can help you. And I appreciate, and that's why we're a destination clinic. People do travel to see us. We have a gentleman here from Nevada this week. Last week, a gentleman was here from England, believe it or not. That was a great story. Talk about digestion, poor man. But as I said, we became a destination clinic because there's not enough of us doing this. But try to find somebody, and if not, reach out, and we're happy to help. But it's just critical to not give.
So it looks like Dr. Vikki might have frozen for a second. Oh, there we are.
Okay.
So it's important that you don't give up, and I think that's the key. I'm a person that I just never stop looking for the answer, because I do truly believe that I can live to the end of my life with vitality and feeling good. And
I can do 100.
Yeah, no, I truly do. I feel that that's possible. And no matter how, you know, we all know somebody that survived cancer and beat the odds and what have you, and we really can survive our digestive system.
Yes, it's a very complex system, but it's, you know, it's second in importance to the brain. So don't ignore it. That gut-brain connection is a tight one. You know, I just wanted to bring up one other thing, and that is that if anybody out there, in addition to, well, maybe you have acid reflux or heartburn, or maybe you just have shortness of breath, where you feel very anxious and you've been diagnosed with panic attacks, that's also related to the stomach, and it can be what's called a subclinical hiatal hernia. And we could do a whole show just on hiatal hernia because there's 15 different symptoms associated with it. But this is young, old, men, women. It's amazing. But you can have the shortness of breath. You can have pressure in your chest, the acid reflux, heartburn, this feeling of anxiousness because you're just really not getting enough oxygen, but you don't appreciate that. So it can manifest in a number of different ways, but I just want to bring that up because I can't tell you how many people are told they just have anxiety because they start complaining of shortness of breath and pressure in their chest or acid reflux, etc. And it's all coming from their stomach. And it couldn't.
Wow. You know what? I'm so happy that you mentioned that because these are things that I don't know. And, you know, I have two clients I can think of. One in particular, I absolutely adore her. And she's just been going through a lot of really difficult stuff. And, you know, she told me I have so much anxiety. I don't know why I have so much anxiety. And of course, you know, she's getting Xanax for it. And she's like, I don't want to take this Xanax, but I don't know what to do because I just can't deal with this. And
yeah, you want to jump out of your skin. Yeah.
Gosh, I'm so glad you mentioned that.
I have a free ebook on my site, so rootcausemedical.com. It's a free ebook over all the manifestations, and it's not hard to fix, but it can be so miserable. And I have so many stories I could tell, and I know we don't have time for them, but I can't tell you how many people whose lives were just about ruined, and then they stumbled upon, you know, like people, how they stumble upon you, and I'm so grateful because I know I can help, but if there was some rooftop to shout from,
we're shouting tonight. All right. So we have a question here. Any suggestions on weaning off of PPIs, maybe with natural supplements like licorice? Okay, well, we're going to pop Dr. Vikki back up here. We got to get you a faster internet connection over there at that clinic.
Oh, it's supposed to be great. I don't know what it's doing. Okay,
it's okay. So tell us about the weaning off.
Yeah. So if you wean off, but you don't get to the reason why the stomach is spasming and creating those symptoms, you're just going to be miserable. It is important to get off them, and I appreciate that, but simultaneously we have to figure out the why, what the reason is that's creating that. And that comes into the food and the infections and that sort of thing. So we need to do both.
Yes, absolutely. So awesome. Thank you for answering that. And if you have any questions, we're kind of coming to the end of our program here. It's so amazing how 45 minutes can go by this fast, isn't it?
I know. We're going to blink.
Yeah. So if you have questions, please put them out there right away. And if you're in the replay, all you have to do is put the questions in and we're going to come back and answer your questions. So last but not least, you know, obviously we all suffer. If you're feeling like you're gaining weight, you don't know why, you think you are eating well, and you know, clean eating is a funny little word. But let's just talk for a minute about you feel overly full. You know, you eat something that you didn't even eat that much of it, and all of a sudden you're bloated, you're gassy, you're constipated. Tell us about what to do, or you know, how to deal with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you really, in order to turn that food into fuel, you need proper stomach acid and proper pancreatic enzymes that break it down. So either what you ate really didn't suit and the body went, oh, here comes this toxin again, and that's why it's sort of sitting there bloating, etc. Or as we get older, we tend to make less stomach acid and less pancreatic enzymes. So that can be at play. And then the other thing is the inhospitable organisms. So the good guys, you need to talk about the probiotics versus the bad guys. And if that balance isn't there, you're not going to be able to turn the food into fuel the way it should be either. So those are kind of three major things. The food sensitivities always, you know, are there. But yeah, that's it. Sort of what you're eating, if there's any food reactions, stomach acid, pancreatic enzymes, and then also the good versus the bad bacteria. Those are the major things to address.
And how do you how do you diagnose those things in your clinic?
Yeah, so the food sensitivities we've kind of gone over. The infections or the bad guys, there's actually a stool test that's done. This is not the conventional stool test where they're just looking to see if there's blood in your stool and, you know, to rule out colon cancer. Very, very different phenomena than that. And then the enzymes are pretty safe. I mean, you can get some hydrochloric acid and take it just after you eat and see if you notice less bloat. If you tend to kind of bloat right away within the first 30 minutes to an hour, that tends to be more lack of acid. And then if it tends to be beyond that hour mark, then we're thinking a little bit more pancreatic enzymes. So, you know, it's a get what you pay for moment. So don't get it at a drugstore, get it at a good health food store. And you can play with that and see if you notice a difference. But there is a bit of a phenomena with getting older and just not making as many of these, as much of the acid and pancreatic enzymes. And it's really safe. I mean, if you feel like, oh, I took hydrochloric acid and now I do feel some burning, just eat more. And that's a simple and easy solution. Eat a little bit more and that would handle it.
Well, that's interesting because I offered that to one of my clients that has been kind of new on our program, and she has had the stomach burning a lot and the feeling of the acid reflux, and attributing it to some of the whey protein in our products or the milk isolates in our products, which honestly that it's like out of 700 clients, she's really like the first one that it's been a really big deal with. And so interesting, all of what you're talking about. So I did say to her, like, try the, you know, HCI Pepsin, and sent her out to get a good brand, and immediately it started burning. And I said, well, what did you take it with? And she said a protein shake. And so I thought, no, maybe you would take it more like with an animal protein meal, right?
Well, really, any meal, just you know, the drink just maybe didn't have enough oomph in there for the acid. But then, yeah, I mean, you could have it with a big salad with, you know, nuts and beans and things like that too. You still need.
So you don't have to eat it specifically with a protein related
meal.
No. Oh, okay. So any meal you're using that. Yeah. Okay. Cool. I love that. So we have a question here. Any suggestions for chronic constipation?
Yeah. So not to sound like a broken record, but we need to get to the root cause. Some basic things are you getting enough hydration? Are you getting your 8 glasses of water? Are you moving your body? You know, do you exercise? Do you get some good exercise? That's pretty critical. And then are you eating a lot of sugar? Are you eating a lot of heavy meats? You know, just maybe try to lighten the load, get more fiber. Now, not a fiber pill. Those are not good. but more fruits and vegetables, beans and legumes, and things that naturally provide fiber and have it within the natural food, that can make a huge difference. So I would just really up the vegetables and water and exercise, give that a couple of weeks, see if things are not doing better. And if they're not, then we need to, ask some deeper questions and do some testing and get to the root of it, because it's really important to get that handled. I literally have had patients who move their bowels from every 3 to 4 days to, believe it or not, once a month, which I know sounds horrific, but it actually occurred. And then she was told that was normal for her, which of course was ridiculous. And we got her to every day. So the bowels know how to heal, but it's really important that you get to the root of that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And it's a subject, that nobody talks about. Certainly parents don't tell their kids. I was never told. I thought going every 3 or 4 days was perfectly fine. Right. But so, okay. Well, I think we've crossed a lot of borders today. And I love, Dr. Vikki, that you really, one of the things I love about you is you really know how to just explain things just so that you get it. And I love all the analogies you give and all of that. It just, you really make it simple. And I love that. So
I've been lecturing for a long time, and you got to make it real. You can't talk in this high, falutin medical lingo and expect people to get it. So yeah,
I love it.
I'm glad it comes across well. Thank you.
All right. Well, if you are watching the replay, give us a hashtag replay. If you really enjoyed this show, give us some hearts. And number one thing is hit the share button, because this is a subject that everybody has somebody that needs this, and let's make this get out there and get lots of views and help a lot of people. So thank you, Dr. Vikki. We will watch the comments. If you have questions, just put them in the comment section and we will be happy to come back through. And of course, if you'd like to see Dr. Vikki, I will put all of her contact information in the comment section and up above. And, contact her clinic. I know you give a free consultation. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do that so that you can, learn about this type of care with no obligation. Just come in, we chat, we get a good health history and figure out, give you an idea of what our approach would be. And then if you like that, you can move forward.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful evening, everybody. Thank you. Bye.